Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're keeping well. Now, we're going to be diving into this segment that I like. I've seen a quick preview of it on Lee Anderson's segment on GB News, and I like it. You know, it's a based woman called Reem Ibrahim, and she's going to be blasting Sadiq Khan left, right, and center for his incompetencies. And of course, you have to have someone on the left that is somehow gonna defend Sadiq Khan's actions. Like, Sadiq Khan cannot be defended. Like, his record speaks for itself. But of course, somewhere along the line, you need to have a wokey to make the segment special. You know, somehow these wokies will never stop, and this guy is going to be defending Sadiq Khan and what Sadiq Khan has done for these past couple of years. So yeah, guys, let's get straight into it. I think we can both agree, you know, if you've been on this channel for long enough, or if you've heard my commentary videos, you know, we are not, you know, supporting Sadiq Khan whatsoever. He has absolutely destroyed London, and it's only going to get worse these next couple of years. This is what I've said many times. You know, the policies that he's putting forth are wrecking London, you know, and I've gone through a lot of what he's suggesting and putting forth. You know, and on top of that, his inability to answer questions, you know, at the London Assembly, like just running away from questions continuously and not knowing that what he's doing, well, willingly knowing so, and just turning a blind eye, that what he's doing is absolutely damaging the lives of Londoners, but he couldn't care less. But anyway, guys, let's get straight into it. This wokey's going to be left in the corner, as he should do, because he's just full of nonsense. But anyway, let's get straight to it, guys.
We saw last week, guys, in the London Assembly, the Reform UK member, Alex Wilson, he made a suggestion to Sadiq Khan in the chamber. Let's just have a quick look at that clip now.
The year's only just begun, and already we've seen at least 9 major stabbing incidents on our streets. My team has been working on a budget amendment where we would like to fund almost 1,000 police officers to deliver a targeted knife crime task force. And the way we do this is reduce the cost of your staff budget back to 2016 levels. That will give us the funding to do this. Now, would you encourage members of other groups, perhaps your own group in the Labour Party, perhaps the Conservatives, perhaps anybody, to second that amendment?
As a rule of thumb, I never encourage anyone to work with Reform.
Well, you saw the clip, guys. I thought that was pretty bad, pretty mean from Sadiq Khan. Matthew, straight to you. Is the Mayor of London putting politics before people's lives?
Definitely not, because there is no suggestion that he is not prioritising getting a grip on knife crime, and that is the single most important, I think, talking point that emerges from all this, that people are losing their lives and people are using lives in completely unacceptable numbers. It's not a totally new problem. I remember talking about this in 2005, but it is a very, very serious problem, and as a father of 2 young children living in London, it's something that I'm very concerned about.
He offered to put in a reasonable amendment, and that's for backing from other political parties. Mayor Khan said, as you saw in the clip, Matthew, he didn't want to work with Reform.
So let's get to the substance of that question. I don't think Sadiq Khan came out of it as well as he might have done, because I think he was walking into what might have been a Reform trap. I understand why he isn't exactly keen to work with you guys, because of the appalling comments that you made about him last year that led you to being suspended from the Conservative Party.
Suspended, yes, Matthew, and re-elected by the great people of Ashton. Over to you.
Hang on, Lee.
It's absolutely insane to say that this is some kind of party politics in which Sadiq Khan is effectively saying that he cares about people that are being killed on London streets, and yet at the same time refuses to work with members of Parliament, or indeed with any other politician from any other party that decides that they're actually going to go and do something about it. Alex's amendment would have put almost 1,000 new police officers on the streets in order to actually create this knife crime tackling task force.
Yes.
This idea that Sadiq Khan is effectively saying in that clip, I'm going to entirely ignore Reform UK in order to just prove a point politically, effectively playing politics with dead children.
That's simply not true. That is simply not true.
That is what's happened.
No, it's not, because what this amendment was to put 1,000 new officers on the streets, which, by the way, if it's possible to do, I would welcome, but it meant sacking people in the mayor's office.
That's doing nothing.
I think they're literally doing
City
nothing.
Hall.
The fact that people are being, no, Matthew, the fact that people are being arrested in this country and being investigated for their ex-posts, and yet people, murderers on our streets, are allowed to roam entirely freely. I mean, I went to a state school in London. I knew that there were boys in my class that carried knives. I knew it happened, we all discussed it, and yet at the same time nobody did anything about it. The police were so incompetent. They actually at the exact same time had knife detectors in our school, and the kids, we know what they do. They dash the knives in the bushes, go into school, and as soon as they walked out they picked the knives back up again. It's absolute incompetence and no one spoke about it. Sadiq Khan has unequivocally failed and he has got children's lives on his hands.
Hang on, sorry, let's just be absolutely clear about this. Sadiq Khan clearly cares about knife crime and the murders, let me finish the point, and the murders of children and indeed adults in our capital city. Of course he does. Has he got a grip of it? No. Would Zach Goldsmith, had he won, or would Susan Hall, had she won the mayoral election, would they have got a grip of it? How do we know? That's counterfactual history. But on the issue of reform,
listen,
you made those appalling comments essentially saying that he was controlled by Islamists. You refused to apologise. I asked you to apologise to him. And so he walked into this trap.
But guys, I'm not going to keep pausing the video. He absolutely is putting politics, you know, before children's lives. You know, this is children's lives. This is time for you to collaborate, you know, with other parties to ensure that things get done. You know, his police force are incompetent, as she said, and he absolutely has a personal vendetta against reform. And he don't care who's dying. You know, so far, you know, no one works with reform. That's all he cares about. And in addition to that, when, as it pertains to Islamists, look what's going on the streets of London. Look, there's a way to covertly support what is happening, and Sadiq Khan covertly supports this. I've said it many times, the Floyd Mayweather case. Floyd Mayweather's coming over. One of the most known people globally. He's coming over to the UK. He's in Hatton Gardens. He's trying to get attacked by some pro-Palestinians, some Islamists that are trying to get at him. He has to drive off quick. Sadiq Khan says and does nothing about it. Same with the pro-Palestinian marches. He welcomes it. He welcomes anti-Semitism. This is what I'm trying to say. So you can't sit down like this guy, whoever he is, and say that to say he's an Islamist is wrong. Like, look at his actions. That's what you have to do. Look at the actions, you know. But I bet you, but the moment we had riots last year, you know, and people were erupting all over North England, he was first to come out and to condemn it. Because that's not his demographic. He's not, you know, he couldn't care less for those guys. You know, if they're not Muslims, he don't care. You know, so he condemns the patriot Brits that were marching because they've had enough of the injustices in London, but then he doesn't have the same energy when it's, and these are people not even in London, these are people in North England. But yeah, when it comes to, you know, Islamists, you know, carrying out chaos on the streets of London, he says nothing about it. That's his covert support for, you know, these Islamists. So let's stop beating around the bush. You know, he absolutely supports them. So this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And he hasn't even read the Quran and Hadith, but that's another thing.
Listen,
and what he should have done, is tackle the issue, Lee.
Matthew, let me hold you to account here. You may think, in the world of Matthew Stadlen, you may think those comments were appalling. In the real world, most people agree with me.
I live in the real world.
No, you don't. You live in Notting Hill.
No,
that's not the real world. I was there this week. It's not the real world.
I agree with Lee Anderson. He is correct. Let's carry on.
Kensington and Chelsea, the borough of Kensington, is the most mixed borough in the country.
The real world.
Let's deal with the issue. Let's deal with the issue. You were very rude to him. I don't think he should have responded in the way that he did because it came across as high-handed and even arrogant.
It played into your hands.
It's absolutely insane.
It played into your hands.
Sorry, the thing that you were picking up on is Lee's comments from absolutely ages ago.
A year ago.
And B, it absolutely doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, many people feel as though Sadiq Khan is, I wouldn't use the same word, I wouldn't use the word controlled by Islamists, but he definitely panders to people that seem to think it's racist to have these conversations. It's exactly the same reason why the grooming gang scandal was entirely covered up and wasn't being discussed. And it's exactly the same reason why people are too afraid to talk about the problem in London specifically, but it happens across the country.
Guys, last time I'm going to pause it before we carry on. You see with the grooming gang scandal, You see, because it was mostly 85% Pakistanis, you see how he swerved it at the London Assembly. Let's say, for example, they were white men. Oh my gosh. You would not hear the last of it from Sadiq Khan on Twitter, believe me. But anyway, let's carry on.
Which is the fact that people on our streets are dying as a result of knife crime, predominantly by minorities. We have to have these conversations openly. It's not racist to say that. I come from a North African family. It's not racist to say that.
I'll go back to Matthew now, because some politicians seem to think it's racist to increase stop and search in London. What do you think to that, Matthew?
I think the stop and search issue is a really delicate one. It's an important one. If you talk,
why is it delicate? Why is it delicate?
Because if you stop and search a disproportionate number of people from a particular community, that can,
you mean the stabbing people?
Hang on. That can drive a wedge between that community and the police. It could potentially make things worse. However, if you talk to some black mothers, as I have done on my radio show in the past, they will support stop and search. So I don't think it is a straightforward issue. But Reema's just said people are afraid of talking about knife crime in London. Of course we're not afraid of it. And whoever is committing those crimes, we need to go after them. We need to sort it out. We need to work out why people are doing it, why kids feel scared. We need to make sure that they realise that they're more likely to die or kill someone if they carry a knife. We need to grip that. We need to tackle this aggressive macho culture. We need to make it more difficult for appalling zombie knives to be available. I'd ban them entirely. And we need to make sure that there are more police on our streets. We need to make sure there are more police on our streets.
Banning zombie knives and going after Amazon and whatever Sakir Storm is talking about this week will make no difference.
Multi-pronged approach.
You've got to look at the
difference.
But it's a multi-pronged approach.
His other silly idea a few weeks back, arresting somebody who's selling rubber dinghies coming out of the channel.
It's insane.
No difference.
I didn't just say that though, I said other things.
You've got to solve the root of the problem, and I can tell you why knife crime occurs in the way that it does. People that feel as though their own lives are at risk, and I went to school with some of these boys, they feel as though their own lives are at risk, so they carry knives in order to protect themselves. It's effectively gang warfare.
How do we change it though, guys?
I'll tell you how we change it. I've got a simple solution, Matthew. I did raise this in the Commons a few weeks ago. During last summer's riots, fair play to Starmer, he stopped the riots within about 2 weeks, and what he did was he got them arrested, in the dock, in prison, within 10 to 14 days. The riots stopped straight away. You get caught with a knife, in court the following day, prison the following day, 5-year mandatory sentence, it would stop in a week.
Facts.
I think that's
I like that.
Hang on.
The problem is the police are too bothered about people's expos, so they don't care about actual murderers.
That's a sort of extreme characterisation that the police are faced with enormous challenges. I think we do need more police. I think that reform London Assembly member was right to call for more police.
So why does Sadiq Khan refuse to work with
Hang on. Sadiq Khan doesn't need to agree to that particular amendment, which would involve sacking staff at City Hall in order to get more police on the streets. The question is Lee right that sending people to prison immediately for 5 years, would that work? Possibly.
It would.
If it would work, it's something very much worth looking at, I would say.
Really?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. These are potential solutions. The problem is we don't have the funding and necessary resources for these kind of policy initiatives. And ultimately the problem is police time is actually being wasted on so much.
If we can take the rioters, as we did last summer, and lob them into prison within a fortnight, we can take these people carrying knives, because the message would get out very, very quickly in places like London that if you carry a knife, you're going to jail for 5 years, and I'll tell you what, they'd stop doing it.
I think you're totally right. The problem is we don't have any of the prison spaces because we refuse to build any new prisons.
Yeah, but we have the spaces for the rioters.
We seem to have the spaces for the rioters, but we seem to not have the space for people that actually commit horrendous crimes. I mean, the fact of the matter is we have to release people early because we just don't have the space in these prisons. We need to build new prisons. We also need to stop arresting people for silly crimes. I personally believe that if you're found with a small amount of marijuana, you shouldn't go to prison.
If the deterrence was much harsher, Matthew, you wouldn't need as many prison spaces.
If you're right, if the deterrent works.
Have you been to Singapore? I went there last year. Have you seen the deterrents they've got there?
I would like to live in
penalty.
I wouldn't. I want to live in an authoritarian state, thank you very much. But I think longer sentences for people carrying knives are worth looking at. And people might say, well, hang on, Do you really want to bang an 18-year-old starting out in who's felt scared, has carried a knife, has made a mistake? Do you want to bang them away for 5 years?
Hold on a minute, man.
Let me respond.
The Southport killer was 17 and carrying knives.
Let me respond. And the answer to that would be, well, if it stops people losing their lives, you don't come back when you're dead, then that might be worth it. Whether it would work or not, I'm not sure. And in the short term, you have to put more money into the justice system, and we have to pay more taxes. So let's be clear about that.
So I think this is a really important point. Yeah. We have to cut spending elsewhere, and that's exactly what Alex wanted to do. I think it's a really important point here. We don't need to be taxing people even more. We already spend huge amounts of money on the criminal justice system. What we should be doing is ensuring that police are not wasting their time on social media posts or on silly things like low-level drug crimes.
I agree. Listen, guys, another feisty debate. Matthew Sadler never fails to deliver. You might not believe what he says back at home, but neither does he. Coming up next, we're going back in.
Listen, guys, that was a somewhat entertaining debate. Reem was on form. Honestly, Reem was just giving it to him straight. And he started off, he worried me in the beginning, because he was talking absolute nonsense. To be fair, he worried me towards the end. But there were parts in which, he seemed like a reasonable man with common sense. I'm talking about Matthew. When they were talking about locking, these guys with knives up for 5 years straight away. Get caught with a knife, 5 years. And then he seemed to agree with that. So, I'm going to take from this that he probably didn't believe, everything he was saying, like Lee Anderson said. So yeah, but she was steaming hot fire. Lee Anderson's another guy that's based, he understands what's going on. He refuses to bow down to the establishment and be politically correct. He says it for what it is. And that's it. UK need to be more harsh with these kind of things. Stop, just creeping around these topics, trying to, pander to people. You need to be harsh. Come with it strong. Like what happened last year during the riots, straight away, within a fortnight, arrests were being made. I was in the gym. I was seeing mugshots of the guys that were rioting in my gym. And I'm thinking to myself, hang on, that was very, very quick, But what happens to, guys that are out here carrying knives, guys that are out here, spreading real jihadi propaganda, which, a lot of them are, and nothing is being done about it. Nothing gets done, to those guys. So yeah, man, it was a very good debate. The Matthew guy, yeah, he's a bit of a mess. But at least people like Reem are here and she understands what's going on alongside Lee Anderson. So yeah, but anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.